So we're on tonight. As today we've been doing all sorts of workshops. So the one tonight now is a very interesting one, I hope for you. And so we just start with a couple of images from that are inspired by Pope Francis, and then we'll go into your story. Like from his very first letter, that's the joy of the gospel. Francis has been saying clearly, our job as church is to look out, to reach out, that our job is to share the good news with the widest possible audience. And Francis is saying that was the practice of Jesus. And this image of Jesus in the boat captures that. There he is. And he has some of his close disciples with him, what we're calling his crew. But Jesus isn't looking at the disciples, he's looking out at the crowd. And the whole purpose of the crew with him is to help him engage with the crowd. So Francis is saying that very much. It's not about a kind of a holy huddle of the like-minded on the boat. It's a group of people with a focus on the crowd, on the widest possible audience. And what does that mean today of parishes, I think, in Ireland today, that we would recognize that they're made up of a number of groups, a number of circles. In the center there, the C group, that's the crew, and they're made up. In the past, they would have been very much the bishops, the priests, the religious, and you know, all the people that would have devoted their lives full time to the church. Their numbers are declining, but what's happening today is that there's been a huge increase in the numbers of lay people who are actively involved in mission and ministry. In our own diocese in Kerry, the recent mapping exercise we did showed that there's at least 700 active groups across the diocese, and everything from pastoral councils to liturgy groups to choirs and so on, who are helping out in one way or another with the church's mission. And beyond those, there's a group called the B group there, and they're the folk who are regular churchgoers who turn up most weekends, who support the life of the parish. We recognise them, and their numbers have declined significantly in recent years. And beyond the B group, there's the A group. They're further away. They're more distant from regular church practice. They don't go to Mass of a Sunday typically, but they do come on occasion, particularly around family events like baptisms and weddings and funerals, first communions and confirmations. And they'll come at Christmas maybe, and for months minds. You know yourself. Now, Pope Francis is very clear that the parish consists and the church consists of the A's, the B's, and the C's. It's not just the C's, the very committed. It's not just the B's, the regular churchgoers. It's also the A's. And Francis would say that as a church, we exist within a wider circle. And that's I've called there the N circle. They're the neighbours. They're people of other religions, people of no religion. They're people who have intentionally left the church. But they're all there. They're all our neighbours. And that in one way or another, Francis calls on us as church to connect with all. And he's particularly saying to us, because many of us here tonight might identify as being part of the crew in our parish, that we're open to the B's, the A's, and the N's. And the workshops that we've been doing have embraced all of these groups. We just had one there now on environmental outreach that connects with folk in the N group as well as within the church. We did one on door-to-door visitation last night that again connects with all the groups, the N group, the A group, the B group, the C group. So there's all sorts of different ways. Now, what we're hearing tonight is a story of hospitality that some people in the C group offer to the regular churchgoers, but also the irregular churchgoers. It's a simple idea of hospitality after Mass, a cup of tea. And it echoes the fact that the first Christians met in their homes to share food and drink. And Lorraine is going to tell us a bit about an initiative that she's involved in for providing that kind of hospitality. So, Lorraine, do you want to tell us a bit about yourself before we hear about the cup of tea after Mass?
I will indeed, Martin. Yeah, as you said, my name is Lorraine Quigley. I'm in the Diocese of Armagh, the Archdiocese of Armagh. I'm actually in the parish of Kilkerley, which is just outside Dundalk, actually in County Louth. And I am married to Larry, have been for nearly 31 years, and we have three children. I have a 28-year-old daughter and a 24-year-old son and a 15-year-old daughter. So good bit spread out. The eldest daughter is in Perth. She's in Australia, as so many of our young people are. But Eamon and Alana are here. I suppose my occupation or my job was I was a school principal, a secondary school principal for many years in Dundalk. I was a PE and maths teacher prior to that, and I retired then a few years ago due to ill health at the time. But thank God, God is good all the time. I am healed and feeling so much better, and excited about what life has to offer for me and for our family in the future. I've been regularly involved in our parish life in Kilkerley. I would be involved with the church choir, and I'm a minister of the word. And I suppose our parish is Father Jerry Campbell is our parish priest, and maybe I've gone into that. That's probably enough about me. Martin asked me just to talk about me, so I won't segue into talking about hospitality just yet. But yeah, that's me. That's I'm in my mid-50s, so I'm in the prime of my life at
You're
the
still
moment.
young. You're still young.
There you go. Yes.
So, this Lorraine, we now you've said it's just interesting. You said you're a maths teacher because some of your slides will show a real proficiency around maths when it came to calculating the cost
Oh, there you
of a
go.
cup of
Yeah.
tea. Yeah. So we
My,
we'll
my
go.
husband, my husband wouldn't tell you that I'm the best budgeter now by any stretch of the imagination.
Oh yeah, well, we'll see anyway when it comes to the slides. But I thought, Lorraine, because you sent us some photographs of
Yes,
very recent hospitality, I thought we might start there just to give folk a visual image of what's
absolutely.
involved. And you
Yeah,
could maybe talk us through what's actually happening and where, and then we
yeah.
go back into the organizing of it.
So yeah, that's literally what our hospitality looks like. Now, sometimes, obviously, if the weather is inclement, we can move it to. We don't do this every Sunday. We don't yet because we don't kind of have. We need to get a bigger team, a hospitality team, developed first before we would do it every Sunday because it's just a very, very big responsibility on a few people all of the time. Plus, it's actually nice to do something that people kind of are wondering, is it going to be on or not on a particular Sunday, because it's always very, very well received when we do it. So this is just literally a table set up outside of our church. The doors that you can see there in the background are the doors of the main entrance to the church. That is just a kind of a yard that we have in front of the church. Now it is secluded, or it's set away from the road, so at least it is safe to stand there. And we've set up a table. We have catering flasks with tea, coffee, boiling water in it, cups, biscuits. We get some juice cartons or juice sachets for children, and you could even get a jug and put juice in that as well. And we also have kind of just little packets of jellies or something for the children as well. And that is how simple it is. It is a table with a tablecloth, but more importantly, it is people talking to people. So as you know, as people are kind of getting their cup of tea, they're chatting to us as a hospitality team, we're chatting to them, and then they're kind of dispersing and chatting to each other. And there's a lovely, lovely atmosphere around when people are together, and nobody really is in any rush to leave, which is lovely. And particularly if the weather is nice. And people can stand around there, sometimes they could be there for 45 minutes or an hour after Mass, just having a chat. So it's absolutely wonderful just to it's a there's it, you always leave. I always leave. We call it Hospitality Sunday now, or Welcoming Sunday, and I always leave with my heart and my soul full. I really do. And even though Mass has already filled me, this just goes the extra mile. It's lovely. And there were some of our more elderly parishioners who for a few times that it was going on, I was they were walking past, and I was saying, would you stay? Like, I'll get you a chair, and, this chair, we can sit you down. It's not a problem. But they kind of kept going. And in the last 2 months, they have begun staying. So we now have chairs, they sit down. And actually, there's one particular parishioner, and he's the last to leave now, which is absolutely brilliant. And he knows everybody and he knows everything about the parish. And he's such a wealth of information. It's just so lovely to see younger parishioners talking to him, because he's a guy who had a stroke several years ago. He doesn't leave his house very much. So for him to sit outside of the church on a Sunday morning and talk to other parishioners. I mean, I kind of listened to his chat last week, and he was just talking about how things were years ago, and his wife died 15 years ago at this point, and he was talking about her, and she was originally from Mayo, and he was talking about how they met, and I thought, there's a conversation he would never have had if he had gone home straight after Mass and didn't get to talk to people. And it really does. They're the kind of relationships that you see building. And praise God, it's lovely. There's a beautiful sense of community and parish developing out of it.
Okay, and tell me, we'll okay, Joe, we'll pick up on some of the other slides in a minute. I suppose a couple of questions, Lorraine, before we go on to the organising. What do you do when it's raining? 'Cause that was a lovely looking
Yeah,
day.
last weekend, as I said, the last few weekends, there are the last few months, obviously, winter months, the weather is a little bit a bit inclement. You saw that slide that Ger went back to, the one that had the table inside. That was one of our recent ones where the weather, now if it was very heavy rain, we would maybe postpone it until the following week. But if it was very light, or if it was just going to be cold, we have it in the church porch. Now, we don't have a massive big church porch, but
No.
we don't have a massive congregation either. But we still manage to have it in the church porch, and we're even looking maybe at putting an awning or some kind of a gazebo or something out at the front with maybe a heater or something in it, that we could at least put people standing outside with a heater if the weather was a little bit inclement, but we could still run it. Because we're trying to coincide our cup of tea, our hospitality Sunday, with our children's liturgy. So we run a children's liturgy on this, and this is different for the Do This in Memory, where we take our children from up to first class. So second class, obviously, they're making their first Holy Communion, so we don't take them, but the first class back, we kind of take them in for their own liturgy on that day. So we have found now that we have more families attending Mass on that Sunday, and to have that tied into the cup of tea as well then is lovely, because it gets families with an opportunity to chat to each other.
Okay, and to me, excuse me, Lorraine, like very often there are months minds or there's anniversary
Yeah.
masses, and you would have other people. Like, does that have any impact, or does that make any difference to what you do?
No, not really, not really. And the only impact it makes is that you might have a bigger congregation, so you might have more people, waiting around for the cup of tea. We've only
Okay.
ever run out of coffee once,
Uh-huh.
and it was only one person, and it was because he went down to the graveyard to say a prayer at the grave and came back up looking for the cup of coffee afterwards, and we had run out of coffee. It's the
Yeah,
only time, and we've been
yeah.
doing this now about 2 years, and that was the only time we ever actually ran out. So we've not done too badly. But yeah,
Um,
no, it doesn't, like it, most of the, the people who attend the Month's Mind, they have a connection. We're a small enough parish,
mm,
they have a connection to the area. So family who attend, at least one or two of the family would know people in the parish, would know other people in the parish. So there are connections, and there would be connections being made. So, if you saw somebody obviously standing on their own, or you felt that there was somebody isolated, it would be important to go over and have a chat to them. And, but those who are attending usually for months, minds and anniversaries would be the first to stay. They're usually the first to stay for the cuppa.
okay, okay. All right. So I think, I mean, you've made the case very clear. It's simple hospitality, roughly once a month, and we've seen the visuals. So maybe you can, because I know you've prepared slides. So if you want to, we can go right through those slides now, and you can run through all that's involved down to the maths of how many cups.
Well, it's only just as they say. If I mean, if we can do it formally or informally, it's absolutely grand. But just we got involved in this, I suppose. Our parish priest is Father Jerry Campbell, and during COVID, for want of something to do, he started investigating kind of initiatives that might be out there that would help to enliven our parish and parishes. At the time he had two parishes. He had Knockbridge and he had us in Kilkerley, and he came upon Father James Mallon's program, the Divine Renovation program, which he started in Nova Scotia in Canada. And as part of that initiative, he got a kind of a leadership team together, and he asked me if I would get involved in that, which I did. And we started off, first of all, by trying to figure out the gaps in our parish life and where we could maybe make a big difference with a minimal amount of effort, so that at least we would start the ball rolling on doing something different. On, welcome obviously is such an important thing. We really, Jesus, as you correctly said, Jesus was all about welcoming everybody. Everybody was welcome. And I myself, as I said, my daughter is in Australia, and I had an amazing experience. I went over to visit her in Christmas, just before Christmas of 2023. And the first Sunday that I was there, I attended Mass. Now, bear in mind that nobody knew who I was, but I was welcomed at the door by obviously the hospitality team of the church over there. And I had, I'd say, a 60-second conversation with a lady, and I went about my business and went into Mass. The following weekend, on the Sunday, I went back to Mass. That same lady recognised me and talked to me again on that day. And I just thought, that is the welcome. That is Jesus literally working through that lady, saying, you are welcome here. It was lovely. So something really, really, really small where hospitality is concerned can have a massive, massive impact. So hospitality, as I said, we spotted, it was the three H's that we focused on initially, which was hospitality, hymns, and homilies. So we kind of figured, if we could kind of get, our choirs were very vibrant anyway, but make sure that our music ministry was kind of vibrant and energetic and enthusiastic and enriching and involved kind of the congregation singing as well, and then obviously that our homilies would be inspirational and would be teaching opportunities as well. So I got involved in the hospitality ministry because I kind of knew a lot of people in the parish anyway, and I figured I can get a team together, I'll be able to manage that. So that's what we did. And initially, the initial outlay is probably your big cost, but it's not massive either. So, you need what we have is yeah.
We'll just
Sorry,
go on
Mark?
with the next slide. Is that right? Or okay,
Yeah,
no, we
no,
have that. We
you
have
can
covered
actually,
that one.
you can
Yeah.
keep, yeah. So how did we get started? That's us. So we got started really by looking at the equipment that we would need. So I bought a foldable table. Now I got I don't know what kind of department stores or stores that you might have in the south, but we have a home store and more up here, but who also deliver online. You can order online and it can be delivered to you. I think the foldable table was about €60. It's plastic, it's very durable, it's really easy to store. I had a tablecloth at home, so I literally took a spare tablecloth that I had at home. We bought catering flasks. Now, depending on where you buy them, they kind of can range from about €30 up to 45 or €50, again, depending on the size that you buy. I initially sourced them on Amazon, but I actually then discovered afterwards that one of our local hardware shops stocked them. And actually, it was by going in and asking them, they now order them for us if we need any new ones. So it's really good to give the business locally, obviously, as well, rather than kind of going abroad looking for equipment. So I use 4 catering flasks usually. On the weekends when we have our catering, I do fill 2 with tea. I'll talk about how I do that in a minute. 2 with tea, 1 with coffee, and then I take 1 with boiling water in it. And if you get a good catering flask, it'll keep that water hot for, up 6 to 8 hours usually. It would never need to be kept for that long, but that's how long it will keep hot for. And it'll literally keep fresh and hot for that length of time. I buy paper cups again in a local catering supply shop in Dundalk. But if you have any caterers beside you, they have contacts where they could order cups, because we do have a few caterers here who have said they would order cups for us. And I buy them in sets of 500, and they work out, I think they're not even €60 for 500. So, and that will keep us going for several months. A couple of teaspoons just if you were going to have coffee, and if people wanted, I usually bring a jar of decaf coffee with me, and I bring some, say, green tea or something in case people don't like caffeinated drinks, or so it's about trying to cater for as many people as possible. So you might need a couple of spoons for that. Again, wooden stirrers are handy. I get them as a box of 1,000. Again, they're not expensive. I think our local catering shop, they can range anywhere from €7 to €11 for 1,000 of them, so that's okay. Some bowls and plates. I don't bother with plastic, or as in disposable plastic or paper. I usually I bought a few kind of good quality kind of plastic permanent bowls that I take out each time that the hospitality is on, and I use them for putting kind of biscuits in and all of the treats. And then on usually the day before the catering, the welcoming or hospitality Sunday, I'll go and I'll do a shop, and I'll replenish any kind of supplies of biscuits that I might need. Obviously biscuits can last really from month to month if they're well stored, so I don't always have to replace biscuits, but I would, and I don't always obviously have to buy tea bags or coffee either. I usually have to buy juices for children. I usually have to buy the children's treats, and obviously I have to buy fresh milk, because the treats for the kids go like wildfire. There's never any of those left. Sometimes have biscuits left, but the kids come in like vultures. So so that's, I usually do that shop kind of the day before, and just make sure that I have everything. And then on the morning of the mass, I get up. Usually it takes about 45 minutes, I've established now at this stage, to make it, because each flask, I make the tea in a, just for, as a word of advice, if you're making tea for a flask, and most of you probably know this anyway, make it in a teapot first, and then pour it into the flask minus the tea bags. Because what will happen is, if you put the tea bags into the flask, by the time you're serving the tea in an hour and a half or 2 hours, it'll just be like tar in the pot, or in the flask. So make the tea in the teapot, pour the teapot tea into the flasks, and it usually takes 3 or 4 teapots of tea to fill the flasks. And then I do the same with the coffee, pour that in, although obviously there's no bags to be taken out there. And then, as I said, I take one empty, but I take a flask of boiling water, so just plain boiling water, and some extra tea bags and extra coffee, so that if we run out of one or the other, I at least have extra water there where we could. And that was from the time that I ran out of the coffee. So I now bring the flask of water, so that I can, go replenish either supply if needed. And that's literally what
That's how
how
you
it
do
how,
it.
how it's organised.
Very good. Yeah, you have it down to military precision.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so what I'm hearing there, Lorraine, is a combination of high organization, but also a deep meaning, like that. That was
Yes.
a lovely phrase: hymns, hospitality, and homilies, and
Yeah.
hospitality you look after. So that's the story. And have you folk with you on it,
Yeah,
Lorraine?
that was the next thing. So when I started it off, I kind of I the first weekend I did it. I asked one of my good friends who I know kind of goes to mass. She's one of the B's as opposed to one of the C's, but she's at mass every weekend. And I asked her if she would help me, which she did. And then once people saw it up and running, then a few people actually offered to help, which is a highly unusual thing when it comes to church ministries. Normally you're going out trying to recruit people, and other people are going, they're too busy, but they're really, I have found that people are really open to this, and to helping out, because it's not really a hugely onerous task on people. And actually, if they're offering to help, they're the right people that you want doing the job, because hospital, as I said, you do need to be able to engage with the people who are there, with the congregation, with anybody who is there. So it needs to be somebody who's not afraid of having a chat, or who actually recognizes people, like I have a few people now who probably know more people in the parish even than I do, and it's great. Like any of the people I don't know, they do know. So it means that we kind of between us all we can connect with everybody, which is lovely.
I was just wondering, we've done it a couple of times in our church, but like the weather is so bad, we wouldn't really, unless it was in the middle of the summer, we wouldn't be outside, and there wouldn't be that much room inside in just inside the door. So we sometimes we would do it at the bottom of the end of the church. Would you ever think of doing that, or is there a reason for not doing it?
Now, one of the times that what are we month are we in now? March. In February, we had a bigger congregation than we normally has. I don't know whether it coincided maybe with the Do This in Memory Mass or something that weekend. I can't remember. But we did have a larger congregation and it was cold. And kind of very naturally, people did gravitate back in through the doors and back into the church. Now, it's not something that I would rather if we didn't have to do that, only from the perspective of just the sacredness of the space and the church, rather, having people kind of standing around and having a chat. I don't know whether the optics for that. Some of the priests would be absolutely. We've 4 priests in our area. We have a pastoral area now with 5 churches and 4 priests, 3 retired priests. Well, actually 2 retired priests and then 2 non-retired priests. Some of them would be absolutely perfectly fine with the congregation kind of gravitating back into the church, and others not so much. So we try not to, but I do have the doors of the church wide open so that if we do end up having to be in the porch, if people did need to kind of step back in just inside the doors, it's not the end of the world. They don't go up towards the altar or the sanctuary, or they're very, very respectful of the space.
How was it going in your parish, Therese?
Well, going back to 2007, I remember my husband had died that year, and we were for that October mass, for the people that had died during the year. I went to that, and there was actually tea and hospitality that evening. And I really, really thought it was lovely because, and we've done it a few times since, but it's just so nice even on a day like that when you're kind of upset and everything, and then you meet people and you chat, and it's not just going into mass and out the door. I think so we have done it on a few occasions, and we've done it, say, before Christmas when there's been a choir service or something like that. We've done it. And so I really think it's a great initiative. I really do. And we'd be hoping to do it once a month as well.
Okay,
But
what parish are you in?
due to the weather conditions in Kerry, I might be saying there might be very few. It'd be lovely to have it outside, but there'd be very few Sundays, I'd say, that we would have it outside. But I agree with you. It's a lovely thing, and people just love to chat and meet, and maybe they wouldn't meet somebody for a long time again or all week, but it's just very, very nice. I think it's a great initiative.
Great. Just from what parish did you say, Therese?
Kenmare.
Hello, Lorraine. Hello, Martin.
Well,
It's
Brian.
lovely to be here tonight to participate in this, which is a very, very interesting subject. I had experience of this in Brazil. I worked 50 years in Brazil, and I had this experience of the Copa, as you say, and a different scale, obviously. First of all, we would never have a problem of the weather. It's a tropical country, Brazil, and however, although we had this event, yes, after the mass, but we carried it further. Out there, a big thing was basic Christian communities. That was to say, meaning small groups of people would meet in people's homes to discuss the human social problems of their area, such as homes, and we'd have maybe 10 to 15 people of that particular area discussing these human social problems. And then we would of course have the cup of tea, the cup of coffee, Brazil, coffee. So it'd be a coffee, and there was something to eat. So that was yeah, I think it's a wonderful idea. I think is if you have it in the church after mass, that's wonderful too. Get people after mass instead of rushing home and coming in for this cuppa and chatting, and getting to know each other, to trying to form community, and then that could fill over into what we had in Brazil, as well as after mass we had these meetings in homes where people would discuss human social problems of their area and maybe try and do something about them.
Thanks very much.
Lovely,
indeed.
Brian. Yeah.
Yeah. And just another observation there. I know in one of the churches where I'm from in Limerick, what they've done is actually they've taken away the seats at the bottom of the church, at the back of the church,
Yeah.
left an open space that
Yeah.
people can gather. So it's a different sensibility. That thing about like nobody minded eating and drinking with Jesus. So
Yes.
why would we mind eating and drinking in the
With
church?
them. Exactly. Yeah. Well, actually, that was one of the conversations we had that week when people did go back in. A couple of the men kind of that were standing having the cuppa kind of were saying, God, now, what do you think? Should we take away a few of those pews now and make a little bit more space? So they were already thinking ahead. They were thinking down that route, And actually, one of the parishes in our area, Darver, one of the 5 churches that is in our pastoral area, they actually have a room at the back of their church, a room where they have a boiler and everything in it. So that's just perfectly set up. If you have that set up, you're really on the pig's back, as they say. Yeah. But
All right.
no, you make the best of what you have. That's it's not, and people understand. And if it is raining, if it's raining very heavily, that's the beauty, I suppose, about doing it once a month. And even if you weren't, it's not the end of the world if you have to cancel a particular weekend because it is raining. We would just do it the following weekend, if it was very bad, because you don't want people getting a bad experience either because they're getting soaked or they're freezing cold.
Lorraine, is there anything else you want to say then before we wrap up?
No, just to say, not if anybody is sitting there thinking, oh, actually, I wouldn't mind getting involved in that, it's okay to be the person who goes back to your parish and suggests it. And you'd be very, very surprised at the fact that you will get people to help you out. And it is one of those ministries where it has such positive impacts for really not a huge amount of workload, if you like. It's not too personally draining or personally onerous, but it does actually reap great rewards. And I have to say it's one of my favorite things to do in the church. And I really do. I get a great sense of church through doing it.
Okay. Listen, Lorraine, thanks very much. Now, I know you put a lot of preparation into this, and that's really appreciated. So all those slides will be up on the diocesan website, along with the video of this workshop. And please God, it'll bear fruit down in Kerry.